And our program guest here in the studio this morning is the Shadow Treasurer, Joe Hockey. First, we'll see what the Sunday papers are reporting around the country, and Nikki Sava, the big announcement yesterday. They've been calling it the Malaysian swap, the Malaysian solution. Give us the details.
Well, even more important than the budget, I think, Barry, is this deal with Malaysia, whereby Australia will repatriate 800 asylum seekers to Malaysia in return for 4,000 refugees at a cost of around $300 million. And while that's a kind of a temporary breakthrough, I think, for the Prime Minister in what has been an incredibly difficult problem for her, I think the price tag on her pride today is $300 million.
What do you make of it? What do you think of the initiative?
It looks patched up, like everything they've done on this topic since the Oceanic Viking sailed into view. But the thing, if the government can think this thing through properly, the thing that Australia hasn't been able to get right since 2001 is that we're the country everyone wants to come to. In the region, there are a lot of ports that boats are setting off from. Most of our neighbours are not interested in stopping those boats. This may be the start of a much more pragmatic policy that says to the region, we'll empty your camps in exchange for you stopping the boats. Once the boats come back again, we'll stop emptying your camps. I can see this thing as a pragmatic solution in the long run, but the politics of this thing has been appalling from the government from the moment of the Oceanic Viking, and they've still got difficulty explaining what it is they want to achieve.
Brian, though, the whole idea is a disincentive thing, right, to discourage people from making the trip. And if this means that 800, anyway, at least 800 selectively chosen through whatever period of time, know that they will not end up in Australia, that they'll end up at the back of a queue in Malaysia. Would that make any difference?
Oh, you would think it would. I mean, after all, this is the Asian-Pacific solution now. The Pacific solution did reduce the number of boats, but I think the thing that's interesting about this is that we're saying in return we will take more people who've already been judged to be refugees. Apparently most of them are going to be from Burma.
So this is 4,000 people over 4 years, so it's about 1,000 people a year. That's a fairly modest number, isn't it, in the whole scheme of things?
Well, the opposition has said, as I understand it, that they'd take an extra 1,500 if the boats were stopped, and quite a lot of people seem to believe, well, we could take a lot more than that without any public reaction, provided they come in here in an orderly way, not through the boats.
Yeah, but I just suspect the line that will resonate most on Talkback Radio first thing tomorrow morning will be 1 for 5. What sort of a deal is that?
Exactly, and I don't think amongst punters that will go down very well. It doesn't sound like a very good deal for Australia, and of course the next question is what happens after we reach 800? All people will have to do, presumably, in Indonesia or elsewhere, is wait until the 800 is reached and then off they set again. So do we have another deal for another 4,000, for another 800, another 300
million? It's not just 1 for 5, though. It's not that simple, of course, because the 800 going back need to be processed. The 4,000 will be coming over already processed, and they are declared refugees.
Barry, since about 1995, the humanitarian intake has been frozen pretty much at 13,500, give or take a few hundred each year. Now, our immigration intake has doubled in that period, so the proportion that we're taking that are refugees is actually halved in actual terms. Now, and Brian makes this point, we could probably double the number and no one would care if they came via an orderly process. I suspect the government may have actually hit on a long-term regional solution without realising what it's done. It needs everyone in the region engaged with us in the process of stopping boats. We won't be able to stop the boats if we continue to pretend that Talkback Radio in Western Sydney is the thing that should dictate regional policy, because there are countries in this region that have hundreds of thousands of refugees to deal with. So the few thousand that we always worry about, well, OK, governments can get tipped out on the strength of these things, but in the long run the coalition government's still going to have the same problem. So I would like this debate to elevate a bit at some point, and it does involve a solution with Malaysia, a solution with Indonesia, a solution with pretty much every country in the region, so we're all on the same team.
Now, on the budget, we've had officially sanctioned leaks, or really announcements, selective announcements going on all week. The latest one this morning, Brian, free set-top boxes for all pensioners.
Not all pensioners, and that's a very good thing that it's not for all pensioners. It's only for those on the base rate of pension. Otherwise, it'd be very expensive, and also it'd be unfair.
Which pensioners do you want to be denied this break?
Anyone who earns more than the minimum wage. I mean, why should someone on a part pension getting $40,000 a year get this when someone on the minimum wage, which is less than $30,000, has to get by on their own? So this is only for those on the base rate of pension, and it's got a public policy purpose. It's trying to get ease the way across from analogue television to digital television, and the main cost will be, but I think it's pretty essential to put it in there, is that the government will pay to have the thing installed. Otherwise, you might have a lot of set-top boxes sitting around and boxes
installed, and then they get a lesson on how the whole thing works.
Yeah, which is it's not easy to do. So I think that's a good aspect of it. Nonetheless, it looks slightly odd seeing you're trying to bring the budget back into surplus, and this costs again. I think it's another 300.
Another 300. Yeah, let's make that 600
Although
for the day.
I wonder whether the thing has been set at 300 and asking the Senate, well, if you want to block our budget, maybe we can throw in a few more set-top boxes for you to let it through.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's Sunday Papers, and now to our studio guest, the Shadow Treasurer, Joe Hockey. And to take us there, here's the Treasurer, Wayne Swan, a short time ago on the Nine Network, with more to say on the Asylum Seeker Initiative.